Good evening, everyone. My name is Nautica Harvin, and today I'll be presenting the LinkedIn Hat of 2012. In the age of personal branding and entrepreneurship, LinkedIn has quickly shot to the top as one of the best platforms to use to get your name out there. As one of the top networking social media platforms with over 400 million members, LinkedIn has gained a huge target on its back. But in 2012, hackers were able to successfully breach the hash passwords of over 117 million user accounts. This fault in LinkedIn's method of storing passwords showed that their system was extremely vulnerable and cryptographically insecure. Today, we'll take a deeper look into how LinkedIn stores their passwords. So LinkedIn uses SHA-1 hashing. According to leaked source, just 50 easily guessed passwords made up more than 2.2 million of 117 million encrypted passwords exposed in the breach. LinkedIn stores its password in SHA-1 with no salting according to leaked source, but that's not what internet standards propose. SHA-1 is one of the many methods to hash and store passwords, but is considered a light security and is no longer recommended to use because it doesn't provide sufficient security. Google recommends using SSH-256 and SSH-3 for better security. SSH-1 passwords are hashed by taking the plain text passwords and running them through an algorithm that would turn the password into a string of numbers and letters, resembling gibberish. The problem is that hashes alone are static, meaning a password like 123123 will always be hashed to 123123. This is especially a problem today because hackers have a plethora of tools at their disposal, with computer hardware being so cheap that hackers can easily build machines capable of computing tens of millions of possible passwords hashes in seconds. A widely known tool that attackers use to crack passwords is a rainbow table. First, we'll take a deeper look into rainbow tables, and then we'll look into a countermeasure against rainbow tables. So a rainbow table hack is a common hack hackers use to crack passwords. This is when the hacker uses a pre-computed table of hash values that are pre-matched to possible plain text passwords. It allows hackers to reverse the hashing function to determine the password. As you can see from the image, many of the passwords listed were also on linked source list of common LinkedIn passwords. For example, 123123 was on LinkedIn's list of common leaked source list of common LinkedIn passwords. So if a user were to have this password, more than likely their password was hacked and cracked by this rainbow table. Now we'll learn a little bit about salting. Now that we know what method attackers use to hack into LinkedIn, let's look at what LinkedIn should have done to prevent this attack. LinkedIn's user passwords were so vulnerable because they were not salted. This means that when the hash value of two passwords are uncovered, if their password is the same, they will both have the same hash value. This is bad because it tells the attacker, one, that the users are using easy passwords that may be in their rainbow table, and two, that LinkedIn isn't salting their passwords to hide the actual password hash values. If we look at this example here, we'll see the blue person and the orange person. They both have the same password. And with no salt, they both come out to the same hash value. Now, if we look at on the other side of the chart, both users still have the same password, but when a salt is added to the password, they both come out to two different hash values. A salt is added to the hashing process to force their uniqueness, increase the complexity without increasing requirements, and to mitigate password attacks like hash tables and rainbow tables. The salt is unique for every user. An attacker has to crack hashes one at a time using the respective salt rather than calculating a hash once and comparing it against every stored hash. This makes cracking a large number of hashes significantly harder, as the same time required grows in direct proportion to the number of hashes. Salting means that it is impossible to tell if two accounts have the same password, making it look non-deterministic. One will have to crack the passwords to tell. Even then, both passwords will have a different hash value with the different hashes. Salting works by appending or prepending a string of text to the password. The password is then hashed. When a user requests to log in with a particular password and username, hash, and salt value are all found, and then the password hash value is compared to the entered password hash value, and the user is granted access if they are identical. When using SSH-1 with salting, the hacker will have to do way more work to uncover the password original hash, and even then, it will not be the original hash because the salt has been prepended or appended to it. Now that we have learned a little bit about salting and rainbow tables, we'll get into the actual attack. According to Marcus Carvey, a security researcher for Rapid7, the hackers had penetrated the LinkedIn database days before the actual attack occurred. He even believed that they may have had access to the website after the attack as well. It is believed that the attackers launched this attack to increase their current library of passwords. Humans tend to reuse passwords across sites, with LinkedIn using a light hash to protect their passwords, and there being millions of passwords. This was a golden opportunity. Initially, hackers tried to sell the user's information, but then posted them online for other people to crack in an attempt to crack more password in a shorter time. According to Paul Kosher, by Thursday, which is a few days after the actual attack, some 60% of the password had already been hacked and decoded. Mr. Kosher estimated that some 95% of the passwords would eventually be cracked. Now we'll get into the actual attack and how it happened. The LinkedIn attack was conducted by Yevgeny Nukilin, a Russian cybercriminal. He conducted the attack while he was based in Moscow. He initially hacked into the computer of a LinkedIn employee. He then installed the malware onto the hijacked machine and used the employee's stolen credentials to log into the LinkedIn's VPN. Michael Arnowitz, vice president of Saveology, said, "Every day, hundreds of sites are hacked and personal information is obtained. Stealing login information from one account can easily be used to access other accounts, which can hold personal and financial information." Once he got into LinkedIn's corporate network, Lucchini stole a database containing the login information, including encrypted hash passwords for over 117 million LinkedIn users. Since LinkedIn lightly secured their passwords after they were stolen, Lucchini was able to compare the encrypted passwords to the hash values in a rainbow table and uncover the passwords. So now we'll learn a little bit about the consequences of the actual attack. As a result of the data breach, LinkedIn issued a mandatory password reset for all of the users whose accounts were compromised. Because they were compromised from the system, but also because they were selling online in the illegal marketplace. Unfortunately, due to the mass number of information in the LinkedIn data dump, hackers now have the power to be 6 times better at cracking future data dumps due to the password Bible they have just created. Hackers know full and well that people tend to reuse the same password across multiple sites and will test those passwords on webmail, bank, corporate, or brokerage firm accounts where precious personal and financial data is free for the taking. According to Mr. Grossman, an estimate of the cost of setting up proper password, web server, and application security for a company like LinkedIn would be a one-time fee of about $100,000. The average breach cost a company $5.5 million or $194 for each record breached. According to Symantec's sponsored study by the Ponium Institute, an organization that tracks data breaches, LinkedIn also faced a $5 million lawsuit after they admitted to violating its own user agreement and privacy policy by failing to utilize long-standing industry standard protocols and technology to protect the plaintiffs suing them and the class members. LinkedIn also failed to notify users that their passwords were being breached. Ironically, though, in the days following this event, LinkedIn stock rose by 4%. In conclusion, there's a lot we can learn from this attack. Fingers can be pointed both at LinkedIn and at the user. On LinkedIn's part, they should have made their passwords more secure by salting them. And on the user's end, they should have made their passwords harder to guess and not basic passwords that could be easily guessed by a potential hacker using a rainbow table. We can learn from this what happens when we only hash passwords and not fully secure them, and how this could end a whole company. Fortunately for LinkedIn, though, the platform offers their consumers a place to network and market their success, something no other company does, allowing them to stay afloat after taking such a huge hit. So now I have some questions for you. What are some security countermeasures LinkedIn could have taken to prevent someone such as Nikulin from hacking into their system and installing malware on one of their devices? My second question, after receiving this information today, do you think you should change some of your passwords? How would you go about creating a newer, stronger password?